Welcome to Sports Center with Elle Duncan and Kevin Negandhi. This is making me sad. We've got the very latest on Trae Young's injury ahead, and we're going to get you ready for the Stanley Cup Final. But first, it is win or go home in Phoenix.
Yeah, and a very big night for Chris Paul. He's been waiting for this his entire career,
Yes,
right?
he has.
How about this? The Suns can end the Clippers season,
Let's
a
go.
team that many thought Chris Paul would make it to the finals when he was in LA.
Right.
Different story. The Suns can be the first to clinch a spot the NBA Finals if they take Game 5. Entering the season, Phoenix hadn't had a winning season in 6 years. They hadn't been to the playoffs in a decade. They hadn't made it to the NBA Finals in 27 years. Now they're a win away from being the first team to ever reach the finals after a playoff drought of at least 10 years. For the Clippers, they've been here before. LA has 6 wins already this postseason when trailing in the series, tied for the most in a single playoff year all time, and they still have hopes of being the first ever to come back from an 0-2 hole 3 times in a single postseason. So Devin Booker, though, he had a 40-point triple-double in Game 1 of this series, but he has struggled since, of course, dealing with that mask and the nose issue. He's missed 13 of his 15 three-pointers since then. Chris Paul hasn't been much better since his return to the lineup, shooting 27% from the floor. Don't let that fool you, though, on what he brings when it comes to the calming presence with a young squad. If the Clippers want to stave off elimination, again, they're going to need a big one from Paul George, who is again without Kawhi Leonard. He is in LA rehabbing his knee injury. Sports Center with Stephen A. Smith is coming up. Top of the hour right here on ESPN. And Stephen A., with the chance to finally make it to the NBA Finals for the first time in his soon-to-be Hall of Fame career, what does tonight mean for Chris Paul?
Well, it's everything. I mean, you know, when you look at him and you think about what he's endured throughout his career and how close he has come, but simply no cigar. There's nothing more important than a night like tonight. 48 minutes away from a berth to the NBA Finals, your first time ever. You got best friends like Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. Obviously, in Dwayne Wade and LeBron James' case, they're both champions multi-times over. And so you have to look at it from that perspective. Then you have to take into consideration how many times he's been knocking on the door. He was knocking on the door as a Los Angeles Clipper. They had a 3-2 lead in the Western Conference semifinals, but they blew it to the Houston Rockets with Harden riding the bench at that particular moment in time because Kevin McHale had pulled him and put guys like Dwight Howard up in there. Then you had a situation about 3 years ago with Houston. You go up 3-2 in Game 5, but that same Game 5, you suffered that hamstring pull. And as a result, you missed Game 6 and 7, and Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry were able to come back and capture the Western Conference Championship because CP3 was down in the eyes of a lot of people. Now here you are knocking on the door again. We all recognize the fact that this is a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the quintessential great point guards the game of basketball has ever seen, top 5 all time as far as I'm concerned. But to be this close at this stage and point in his career, particularly when so many people had counted him out and thought that his days were pretty much over, it's hard to put into words what a night like tonight will mean to him if he's finally able to get to the finals.
He's not the type of guy that will show his nerves, but I'm sure he'll be feeling it on the inside. More Stephen A. later in the show at the top of the hour for Sports Center as he is live from Phoenix. Stephen A., thank you. Elle?
All right, Kevin, developing story. We've seen injury after injury impact these NBA playoffs. We may have another. Trae Young's dealing with a bone bruise after twisting his right ankle last night. You just saw it there. It's questionable for Game 4 tomorrow night. Late in the third, he just unintentionally stepped back onto the foot of a ref. He'd leave the game, come back, score 35 points, but obviously was hampered by the injury in the Game 3 loss. And despite it coming in a losing effort, check out the company that Ice Trae joined just yesterday, recording his 8th 30-point game this postseason, tying LeBron James for the third most by a player participating in his first postseason. The only players that had more: Rick Barry, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All of this to say they can't do anything without him. Here is his team talking about Trae.
Today is a day to take care of whatever it is that you need to get yourself ready for tomorrow. So that's where Trae is at. You know, he's getting what he needs, which is a little treatment and whatever else he needs, whether it's a massage or whatever, to get himself ready for tomorrow.
No, that's the head of our snake. So I mean, that's the last thing I feel like anybody who's a Hawks supporter wants to see is that dude coming down with any sort of knick-knack or that's the last thing I want to see. Hate to see it, and just hoping, praying that he's going to be okay.
I suppose it's ironically fitting that a franchise that's taken a huge step forward during this playoff run could be undone by a step back. NBA reporter Malika Andrews is with us now live from Atlanta. Malika, we're a little more than 24 hours away from Game 4. How will the Hawks determine Trey's availability?
Well, Elle, you can take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth with me. Right now, the Hawks and Trae Young, that they're optimistic that he is going to be available to play in this pivotal Game 4. You mentioned the MRI revealed a bone bruise. Well, the thing about that, I've been told, is that means that this is a matter, because there was no structural damage, it's a matter of pain tolerance and treatment. So Trae Young, I've been told, has been getting a lot of different medical advice today, been seeking out that treatment. He said after Game 3, he wants to be available. He's going to do everything in his power to be available to play in this pivotal Game 4. As folks around Trae Young like to say, it would take half of a head for him not to be out there on the floor, and even then they would have to hold him back from not being out there, not going out there, not playing. The Bucks, I'm told, are preparing as if Trae Young is going to be available to play. He's such a focal point of what they do, and Giannis Antetokounmpo said that I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. They want the Hawks' best shot, but right now this is something that changes hour by hour, minute by minute with this type of injury, but indications are good that he's going to be available to play, Al.
I'm sure they want the Hawks at their best, just like they wanted the Nets at their best. But alas, that was not meant to be. Bucks are still going to look to take a 3-1 lead, whether Trae is playing or not tomorrow night. So what is their mindset as they head into Game 4?
One game at a time, Ellen. I know you can stop me. That's a sports cliche, but that's something that I've heard from the Bucks for the last couple of years that I've been around them. They're not going to get too high and they're not going to get too low. But the difference, as I talked to one staff member about today, is that in this year, in this season, they're actually able to embody that a little bit better. They've been in this situation before, Elle, where they were 2 games away from a playoff, from a finals berth, and they weren't able to make it. The Toronto Raptors stopped them. And so this time, when they fell down early in Game 3 to the Hawks, Giannis Antetokounmpo gathered his teammates and said, we're going to take this one possession at a time. And so when Giannis was asked after the last game about what making the finals would mean, he said, I don't want to talk about that yet. We still have 2 games to win, and they are utterly locked in on winning Game 4 and going back to Milwaukee with a 3-1 lead.
So is that all it took, was a pep talk? Because it sort of seemed like Chris Middleton actually fell through the Space Jam portal and became Michael Jordan last night, which was crazy. Malika Andrews, just an absolute phenomenal performance by Chris. Malika Andrews with the latest there as we head into Game.
Jefferson wearing his high school T-shirt.
Yeah, I was in junior high. I was Desert Foothills. No big deal. Yeah, we were doing big things over there. Perk, you don't know nothing about that.
This guy.
It's okay. Everybody that's been in Desert Foothills, they know.
Kendrick, we're going to hear a lot.
A lot. For
about
next
this
week,
if
it's a
the
lot of
Suns win
Arizona
tonight.
stuff. But this.
All right, after accidentally stepping on a referee's foot last night, an MRI revealed a bone bruise in Trae Young's right foot himself. He is listed as questionable for Game 4 against the Bucks tomorrow. How does this news affect the Atlanta Hawks, Richard Jefferson?
Well, obviously, Trae has been, I don't want to say breakout star because the man was already a starter in the All-Star game, but ultimately, we know, this is not if you don't have Kawhi Leonard, you can go to Paul George. If you don't have Chris Paul, you can go to Devin Booker.
Right.
Part of his success and his greatness that we've seen is it's him.
Yeah.
And the surrounding cast do a great job.
there are very good players on that team, but he is the star.
He is the setup man. He is all of the things that make this engine run. So without him, we know the truth. There's not much of a chance without him, and his team knows that, and he knows that.
You know what? I just hate it because, honestly, he's been the greatest show in the playoffs, right?
Most
he's
consistent.
been the brightest. No, I'm saying for us, being the brightest stars, must-see TV. Trae Young
he's been a show.
Yeah, he's been a show.
Go back to Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely. He's taking it over. And so I hate to see him go down because he was giving us all what we wanted to see. At least he was challenging the Bucks. He was making them, putting them on their heels, putting pressure on them. And RJ, you was being nice, but to sum it up, Rachel, Bucks in 5.
Well, look, I know this is what I know about Trae Young. No, I mean, look, he will try to play. If there is a way for him to get on that court, he will get on that court. We have learned that about him. This kid is so tough. But as he said post-game last night, he does not have explosiveness right now with this injury. And a guy like that, especially that size, and we have seen it with Kemba Walker. We were talking about Isaiah Thomas, not Zeke, the other Isaiah Thomas during the break. You need that speed because you are smaller. You have to hit that window quicker because you cannot see over and shoot over guys in the same way if you are just a fraction of a second slower.
And we saw the 30-foot shot that he's hit, the 34-foot shot. That all takes every piece of your mechanics working properly. And I'm not saying that Trey's not going to play. I'm not going to say that Trey's not going to have a good game. But if Trey's not 100% or pretty close, that just makes the job that much harder.
And then to make it even worse, he's going against one of the best perimeter defenders in the game in Drew Holiday. So not being 100% or 50% healthy, going against a guy like Drew, I mean, good luck.
Good luck. Good luck.
All right, I do want to get to Chris Paul. We've been talking about him all show. He has a chance to reach the NBA Finals for the first time in his 16-year career with a win tonight. What a journey it has been. CP3 has been the most All-NBA and All-Star selection, double digits of each of any player that has never reached the finals. So, Perk, what would a win tonight mean for CP3's legacy that he finally crossed that barrier?
It will mean everything. Look, he's already a top 5 PG of all time, in my opinion. It will put him right at number 3 behind Magic and Isaiah Thomas if he reached the finals. I'm looking at this for CP3 is more looking like AI, Rachel, your favorite guy, right? Taking the team to the finals, doing the unthinkable. No one thought when CP3 came to the Phoenix Suns this year, everyone was like, what is he doing? Except for me. I said that they will finish, be one of the better teams in the league, but I'm not here to brag. At the end of the day, he did the unthinkable. He took a young team with no experience, came in with his veteran leadership, and did it on and off the court, and here he is, one game away from the finals.
I think
it's the truth.
I think it does nothing. I'm going to stand on this fence and say it does nothing. If Chris Paul gets to the NBA Finals, I don't judge him any differently. I know how great he is. Now, if he wins the NBA championship, that's how I really do feel this. Look, he had multiple times where, somebody gets injured, a hand gets broken, a hamstring gets pulled. Those are out of his control. That doesn't take away from his greatness. In my opinion, no one's asking you right now. Hold on. My point is
he's literally here because we are asking for his
but
opinion.
in this moment, right now, my thing is like for people that don't want to give Chris Paul their respect, it will move him up.
Right.
For the people that have always respected him as the great point guard of this generation, up there with like all the top name. He's got to win a championship to get a little bit further. That doesn't mean that he hasn't improved the longevity, all of the stuff that he's doing, been impressive. But I've always known Chris Paul was this guy, whether he made it to this final or not.
You know what's disturbing?
Please
the
tell
guy
us.
that played the game. And Rachel, this is what we take for granted so often, right? We talk about winning championships, but people don't understand how hard it is just to get there to the finals.
Yeah.
Okay, so with CP3 coming here and getting his team to the finals, forget getting to the playoffs, forget getting to the first round, forget getting to the second round, forget getting to the conference finals. He took this young team that have about 5 guys that never played in the playoffs, and they're on their way to the finals if he get this win tonight.
I agree.
It does a lot for his legacy. It moved him from number 4 or 5 to number 3. That says a lot because he's jumping Stockton and all those other guys, in my opinion.
Perk, am I counting in my head right? You've been to 4 finals?
I've been to 5 finals, Rachel.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Although I feel better that you didn't know either, so that's good.
Yeah.
You've been to 4 finals. So even though these guys make it look like it's easy to get to the finals, it's not.
We had a lot of help.
know-
I mean, I'm not going to sit up and say I was the reason that we went to the finals. He will, but I won't.
He was a big part of the reason with the Nets.
It's okay, Perk. You don't have to give me credit. The rest of the world will.
Rachel, when the Nets traded them, guess what happened?
They got better.
And there we go. I will say this. I am very happy to see Chris succeeding in this way because there has been a rap on him, as you note, unfairly by people who don't know. But there has been a rap on him that, he doesn't do well in the finals or in big finals moments, he falls apart. He definitely will be the first to tell you, and he did it to me on the court, Perk. You mentioned it the other night. He will be the first to tell you there have been things that have gone wrong. But also, if you look up Chris Paul's playoff performances before this year, he has had some super
ridiculous,
crazy, impressive playoff performances. So I'm just glad that this year's season, what he's doing is wiping some of that misconception about him away. All right, coming up, we got to